We are starting, though, in a design space, in a creative space, with a problem that I bet you'll be able to relate to if you've stared at magazines before and looked at the lovely way, the lush way they've layered and stacked art. Then go with me here. You're going to need a geometric, an abstract, and a still life. You might want a figure and a landscape, too, because when you have a handful of eclectic paintings, then layer them up. It can be a fresh way to set out seasonal art, too. Stylist Michelle Giolas has the formula for a balanced look of art on a shelf. It's so great to meet you, Michelle.
You too, glad to be here.
And I was just saying to Michelle before the show, I stare at people who do this. I don't stare at the people, but I stare at the pictures of people who have done this well, whether it be in a magazine or on Pinterest, and you think it looks so almost casually effortless, but there's an art to this, styling art, layering art. It takes kind of an eye. You have it.
It does a little bit, but I think that it's easier than you think. I think some people will look at that and think that looks too hard, but it really is easy.
We're looking at some examples. What do you like about the layered look?
Well, a few things. I mean, one, you don't have to put nails in your walls.
Hey,
so you can just,
husbands everywhere, Michelle, are high-fiving you through the screen.
No feeling nail holes. But I think everybody has a shelf or a mantle or a buffet cabinet or even a kitchen counter, something where there's kind of a long, expansive space where you could put several pieces of art. And it just makes kind of a more interesting way to display your art. I mean, putting a single piece on a wall or a gallery wall, those are all great. But this just kind of creates another interesting way to display your art.
It makes you look. Yeah. It makes you pause. And we talk all the time about art having a story or art evoking a certain emotion. I feel like stacking them in this clever way or layering them pushes that pause, right? And has you look a little bit closer. And seasonal art, we should say, too. A lot of people are wanting to swap out seasonal art. So you've got some guidelines at play. We're going to do this in the moment. I'm going to be taking copious mental notes. First, you say reach for the big guy.
Yeah. So I brought a couple of big ones here, but I would say, you know, if you've got a big piece of art, start with something like this.
Okay.
And center it if you need to, or you can off-center it. So it just sort of depends on your space. You'll play around with it. So as you're putting pieces up, you might have to shift and play around with things.
And I reference different kinds of art we can layer if we want to get really curated about it. This would be what, a geometric?
So I would consider this a geometric, even something that's maybe a little bit modern, you know, something. So,
all right. Do you like to overlap the frames? It seems like they kind of drip into each other.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
So say, I mean, I brought a bunch of different ones that we can choose from.
Fun pieces.
Say, what I like is movement too. So you're going to layer some pieces. You can kind of decide, do I want this to be behind? You know, there's a lot of white space here with this mat, so you could easily, you know, cover some of that up.
Yeah, who gets center stage? In this case, that gorgeous gold frame.
So this is still getting center stage, but we could layer something over here. We can put another, so this would be considered some, you know, a landscape. So we're going to put a landscape piece in and layer it in.
How much do you want to vary the size, or do you want to keep it within a certain scale?
I like varying the size. And in the diagrams that will be online, it'll show some examples of sizes of art that you could choose. It doesn't have to be exact, but I just like a little movement. So you're choosing variation in sizes so that the art is kind of
I like that you say movement. Yeah, I wouldn't think of art moving, but I see what you're saying. The eye moves.
Your eye's moving.
Okay, all right. So this is a three-piece.
So three-piece, but you could go layer even a little bit more.
Okay.
So you could.
Who's this faceless gentleman? We don't know.
We don't know.
Like him.
We don't know.
He's part of our family now because he's on the shelf.
Exactly. So, you know, kind of shift things a little bit so that you're not covering up the main focus of the painting, but you can layer another piece in.
Okay.
So I would say go for it for as few or as many pieces as you want to do or that you have room for, within reason, you know, just so that it doesn't start getting too cluttered and too messy.
Okay, let's get specific with your formulas.
Okay.
We like to work in odd numbers, we know that in the design world. So if I have 5 art pieces and I were to break it down into a diagram, kind of walk us through this.
Okay, so this in particular, again, we've started with the largest piece in the center, and then you can see how it's kind of moved to different sizes. So you're kind of stepping down, then maybe layering like we did here, layering something in front of something else. So it's giving a little movement. Now, the thing about odd numbers is that it doesn't always have to stick with an odd number.
Okay.
Sometimes an even number can feel okay. So like what we're doing here on the wall at the moment has 4 pieces, and it feels right to the eye because of the size variation.
The scale kind of feels
the scale.
appropriate. So don't pigeonhole yourself.
Don't get yourself
to
stuck
a
in
certain
it.
number.
No.
What about a smaller grouping? Give us a formula for a smaller set.
So smaller grouping. So if I took this one out in particular and was just going to do 3, I could leave this here, or we could even take a big one out and do something in our diagram. I think we have something a little bit smaller on the side, but you could bring something else in that's a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
And maybe layer one of them and maybe not layer.
So we're seeing in both diagrams too, kind of this suggestion, this prompt to vary the type of art, and we mentioned this quickly, but vary the type of art that you're putting together. So it's not all landscape, for example, or it's not all floral.
Exactly.
You're mixing it up.
Yeah, I like that. I just think it gives a little bit more interest. If you've got something that's a little bit more modern or abstract, mixed with a landscape, mixed with a floral, so.
Again, it's that casual on purpose vibe,
exactly.
right? That the eye will maybe not pick up on in detail, but the mood will be absorbed. And then finally, you like to add objects to support the art or like anchor the art?
Yeah, because objects can be artful too. So say you have a little pot of flowers that you want to add at the end.
Sure.
And bring a little interest, or a candle. You've got a pretty candle and adding it in. Sometimes books, I brought some books here, but sometimes you might need to lift something up with books. So if you don't feel right about the scale of what you've put up, you could even put books
there you go. But again, those bindings become art too.
Yes, they become part of
color,
the grouping.
the interest, and the pattern. I've learned a lot today, and I do think it's a fun creative challenge, especially if you love art.
Yes.
Right? There's only so many places on your wall you can hang a single frame, but the idea of stacking and layering is so creative.
Yeah, and if you're a collector of art, whether it's original art or just you see neat prints that you love, it gives you a way to display them all.
This was fantastic, Michelle. Thank you so much. Some of these art pieces we should mention come from your new online shop.
Yes, it's Magpie Home and Market. I'm on Instagram at Magpie Home and Market, but there's a link to the store, and so you can order. There's art and all kinds of home accessories, and
I will find, follow, and shop along. Magpie Home.
Magpie Home and Market.
Okay, we'll meet you there. Thank you so much.
You bet.
I appreciate the tutorial, and I always love a good formula, so we'll post those for you on our website too, and you can plan and design along.